all, welcome to the Qualitest webinar on elements of a successful DevSecOps transformation. I'm your host, Ritika Sharma. Before we start the session, please take a moment to check your audiovisual settings for the smooth participation. Today's webinar will last for approximately 45 minutes and will include a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to submit your questions at any time during the webinar by typing them into the questions pane situated on the right-hand side of your screen. Please note this webinar is also being recorded and you will receive the recording shortly after the broadcast. Let's kick off today's session. A little bit about the presenters. I'll go with Srinivas first. Sri is our global DevOps head, dedicated to helping clients drive organizational transformation. A strong advocate for faster time to market with improved quality, Sri promotes an automation-first approach using unique tools and methods to build a culture of continuous improvement, key to successful DevOps maturity. Vijay Tunawar comes with 16 years of experience in quality engineering and specializes in designing and implementing strategic automation solutions for enterprises. At Qualitest, he is a part of Test Automation Center of Excellence and responsible for driving quality engineering transformation for various customers. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Ritika. So let me cover a quick Qualitest introduction, right? So we are world's largest AI-powered quality engineering company with over 26 years of expertise, helping businesses on digital IT solutions, quality engineering, and DevSecOps transformation and digital engineering as well. We are spread across 11 countries, across 5 continents, with 23 global delivery centers, providing our customers around the clock quality engineering solutions and supports. With 9,000 plus engineers dedicated in quality engineering, the scale of team brings immense collective knowledge and skills and experience in quality engineering. 40 plus percentage of our workforce are women, fostering diverse workforce as well. We are recognized as a leader in the Forrester Wave continuous automation and testing services in Q2 2024 report. We're also positioned as a leader in multiple categories such as Nelson Hall, NEAT report, and Everest Group's quality engineering peak matrix assessment in 2023. We are excited to present to you all today our point of view on DevSecOps transformation from our experience working with various customers on over multiple years. With that, I'll hand it over to Sri to start this conversation.
Thank you, Vijay. Can we go to the next slide? So in our experience, executing DevOps transformation in enterprises has always been a journey. There's no destination because once the organization starts their transformation, they're constantly striving to mature DevOps automation through continuous improvement. With careful planning and execution, DevOps transformation can produce demonstrable results to improve time to market, achieve better quality, and also elevate the capability of IT organizations to deliver their commitments to their business partners. And that's where we're talking about predictability. Next slide. Now, let's look at some of the reasons why organizations embark on a DevOps transformation journey. Most commonly, what we see is, the capability to deliver features faster to their customers. We touched upon it a little bit in the last slide about increasing the time to market, right? Secondly, it might be because they're doing a fundamental shift of embedding quality across the application development lifecycle. Now, the third would be driving process optimization through automation. Thereby, they can reduce the lead times and remove the handoffs. And the fourth reason is usually because the organizations don't see the results or outcomes from their automation and tooling efforts. They have automation in silos, and there's probably some level of local optimizations, etc., and they're not able to realize those benefits. So they come to understand that they need to go through a structured transformation processes to realize better outcomes. Now, there are other initiatives such as agile, you know, cloud native transformations or app modernization, etc. When the organizations pick up these initiatives, they realize that there's lack of automation, there's lack of process uh, changes that are required to really achieve the outcomes from these transformations, and that's when they pick up DevSecOps transformation as well. Now, Vijay, why don't you talk about some of the impacts, some of the aspects of why organizations pick up from a quality perspective?
Certainly, Shri. One of the aspects is shift left mindset, right? So integrating quality engineering practices early into development cycle allows teams to identify and migrate defects before even it reaches production, right? Um, Second is automation first mindset. The transformations promotes the teams to use automated test and quality gates within the CI/CD pipelines, reducing their manual effort and cycle time, testing cycle time itself, right? The third is the continuous testing or continuous quality assurance, right? So the transformations like this helps or enables teams to continuously test their application against every code change they get to ensure that high quality product is released into production. Now that we have covered why DevSecOps transformation, on the next slide, let's talk about how DevSecOps transformation is carried out for the organizations.
All right, thank you, Vijay. So when we think about DevSecOps transformation, our point of view is that there are four foundational pillars that are needed to drive successful DevSecOps transformation that is scalable and sustainable. So the first one is technology. We touched upon it a lot in the previous conversation, where it represents the tools and the automation required to drive the efficiency in all of the SDLC. The second one is process, where it is required to optimize the process to successfully leverage the automation and realize its benefits. And the next one is culture, which is usually the most difficult pillar to execute and requires more effort than any other pillars in the transformation. It involves driving change and reinforcing behaviors for continuous improvement. The last pillar is enablement, which involves structuring the organization to better embrace the change and drive consistent DevSecOps adoption across the organization. Now, each of these pillars are essential for driving the transformation holistically. Now, focusing only on a few pillars could provide even undesirable outcomes and even derive partial value. So now that we've covered the at a high level the four pillars, we're going to dive a little deep into each one of these and understand what they actually mean. Here, we will double click on tools, automation, and technology pillar. One of the very important aspects of automation is to create DevOps pipelines that are built with solid principles. I will give you some examples. Pipeline as code, build once, deploy everywhere, etc. Now, these principles help create automation that is flexible and scalable, along with traceability. The automation tool should leverage tooling integration with the pipelines so that positive outcomes can be realized in all the phases of the application development lifecycle. Now, when we take continuous integration as a phase, now the capabilities that should be supported should include automated code merges, pull request or code review enforcement, execution of unit tests, and running static code scans for code quality, and also to identify security vulnerabilities in the code that is being developed in-house or third-party or open source libraries. Now, after implementing the code scans, now configurable quality gates can be added to pipelines to ensure that there is enough code coverage and block the issues related to code quality and security vulnerabilities going further down the application development lifecycle. Now, since we have covered this continuous integration part, now let's talk about the continuous delivery part or the CD part. And for this, it is very important to have pipelines that are automated to perform deployments all the way to production and um, have a lot of integration with testing tools so that we can better realize the outcomes from the automation. Right. So we just, why don't you take it from here to cover the continuous testing aspects of this specific pillar?
Sure, Sri. Continuous testing covers validation and adding quality gates during build and deploy stages, right? So tools like JUnit, TestNG, Pact for microservices testing enables automated unit test cases and integration testing during the post-build process, right? So also tools like SonarQube or Lint um, or checkmarks automatically scan the code for any security vulnerabilities or code smells or coding style issues, right? So those provides the early quality gates from continuous testing perspective. During the post-deployment process, you can use tools like Postman, Rest Assured, or Ready API to allow automated API testing and validating those services, whether they work as expected or not, right? And you can leverage tools like Selenium, Cypress, Playwright to enable end-to-end system testing of user interfaces, validating the front-end components of the application as well. You could use
Right.
tools such as JMeter, Gatling to allow load and performance testing to be integrated within the pipeline to ensure that applications also meet the performance benchmarks before after it is deployed or before it is deployed to production, right? So you can use security tools such as OWASP, ZAP, or Sneak to automate the dynamic security scans and catching the vulnerabilities as part of the deployment process, right? Slower tests can reduce your reliability of automated tests as well, right? So a continuous testing can be more efficient with usage of containerized and cloud execution platforms to ensure that, I mean, automation test cases run faster in the pipelines as well.
Thank you, Vijay. Now that you covered continuous testing, I want to touch base really a little bit on the release optimization aspects, right? To optimize release processes, the pipeline should have the capability to assess the production readiness of artifacts as they pass through multiple environments. Now, yeah, we have touched about quality gates, right? Both part of CI before you do the compilation, and also quality gates as part of CD, and that are related to quality testing. I'm sorry, continuous testing, as well as security aspects. So the pipelines can be intelligent to evaluate these quality gating criteria to assess the production readiness. Now, if components meet the criteria, pipelines should be capable of integrating with change management tools such as ServiceNow, Octopus Deploy, etc., right, to better improve release orchestration. Now, the pipelines can create these change records in an automated fashion whenever the components are ready for production release. And creating these change records helps the organization satisfy compliance and audit requirements. Now, we can also provide capability for the pipelines to auto-approve these change requests based on the production readiness criteria, and also utilize advanced deployment patterns so that the release orchestration can be optimized and time and cost is saved as part of the release management process. Let's talk about some examples here of some deployment patterns. A blue-green deployment pattern will help you deploy something into production without having the users impacted, or without providing visibility to the users, end users that are using your application, and so that you can validate it. And then, once you are satisfied with the validation, turn it to green so that it's available for every user. So when you use these deployment techniques, what happens is you're now able to deploy during the day, or at any point in time. And when you have all these principles that we talked about, or to optimize the releases, it becomes very easy to deploy anytime into production in a safe and optimized manner. Okay. Here, in this slide, we're going to dive a little deeper into how the process pillar becomes very significant for DevSecOps transformation. One of the things that can be very effectively used, or the methodologies that can be adopted, is the value stream mapping. Um, there are different processes that are in play in an application development lifecycle. And, uh, and you take these processes, you look at them, and you map them from end to end. And as you map them, you try to identify the automation checkpoints, and then um, use the automation to either remove some of the obstacles, or optimize the processes by removing the lead times, removing handoffs, etc. Let me give you an example. We talked about the pipelines automation in the pipelines for evaluating the quality gates and the production readiness. Now, if the pipelines have the capability and the organization has confidence in that automation, there's no need for a quality certification or a release certification. That certification is already done by the pipelines, and that can be leveraged by the processes, and that can lead to, moving the artifacts from one environment to another in an automated fashion, and in fact, even to production if it's required. Vijay, would you mind covering some of the other aspects of the processes when it comes to BDD and TDD, and how they can elevate the process optimization and help drive the overall outcomes of the DevSecOps transformation?
Certainly, Sri. As we talked earlier, shift left and automation first mindset helps the DevSecOps transformation, right? To enable that, some of the process changes like bringing in test first development approaches like BDD or behavioral driven development, where BAs are ensuring that they write the requirements in common language, which can be consumed by developers and testers. And the same set of acceptance criteria become an input for the automation engineers in the team to practice in sprint automation as well. From the test first development approach, the same acceptance criteria written by BA can be an input for developers to write the unit test cases first, even before they write the code, right? And these approaches certainly help teams to adopt the testing first mindset and create the test automation early in the life cycle and align to the testing pyramid to make sure that they write more of unit test cases and less of system end-to-end system tests, right? So and ensure that all of these test cases which are automated are integrated with the CI/CD pipelines so that they can work as a quality gates in the post-deployment process.
Thank you, Vijay. Why don't we move on to the next slide? So if you remember, we talked about cultural change being the hardest of the transformation process, right? So it is essential to adopt a formal organizational change management methodology to drive change. Changing mindset, proving value, upskilling, improving adoption, all of these can benefit by utilizing methodologies such as ADKAR by ProSci. I've listed that on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, let's talk about another important aspect of change management, We all know that we need to get a solid support from top down to drive any change within the organization. We all know how critical it is, but it is also essential to drive the change from bottom up. How can we do that? We can leverage what we call as change agents. We can identify these change agents that are in all levels of the organization. And people that qualify for this are people that are usually very thirsty for change. They are very concerned about the status quo. It's not giving them capability to move faster or learn new things, etc. We can successfully utilize them to drive the change and increase the desire to embrace the change, not only within them, but also in all the participation of the transformation journey. Another way to influence change will be to embed coaches within the application teams, within the pods, within product teams, whatever it is within your enterprise for enabling and upskilling the workforce. Let's talk about the last component, which is reinforcement. We all know that it's a common tendency for folks to roll back to their comfort zones. So it is very essential to reinforce change behavior. Now, if a coach were to walk in and tell them that they're not going in the right direction, it's not going to probably be received very well. So it is actually essential to have metrics in place to demonstrate very clearly when change adoption is not proceeding in the right direction and help the teams pull back and get back into the right groove towards achieving continuous improvement. Now we can go to the next slide. Now, for a successful transformation, creating a support structure for enablement becomes key. A lean hub, which could be a center of excellence or a community of practice, can help create foundational elements such as pipeline templates, perform process optimization, drive cultural transformation, and also enable the organization to adopt DevSecOps. Now, the hub can help set up standards, define and report metrics, conduct POCs, and create capabilities that can be adopted to continuously improve DevOps maturity across the organization. Now, to be successful and defeat the anti-pattern of becoming a bottleneck, because if we are talking about a lean hub, so in order to avoid the bottleneck, the hub needs to prioritize guidance or governance and collaboration or oversight. So how can we do that? How can we be lean and just provide guidance and collaborate to make an effective change in the organization? For this, the hub needs to work with the line of businesses or the business domains and create what we call spokes that have DevOps skills in them and take ownership of each of the DevOps journey for each of these line of businesses. Now, the spokes will help customize the pipeline templates that the hub has created based on the needs of the domain. It will be responsible for onboarding and enabling the application teams and create capabilities that are very unique to that business domain. An example of that may be, Salesforce pipelines or Pega, right? The spokes can create these pipelines or create these assets and then share it with the hub and in effect across the organization. So now you're removing the bottleneck, right? That we talked about. And 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 the spokes in addition, right, can also help create a baseline of the metrics because they know their application teams better, they know their domain better, so they can baseline the metrics and also collect metrics to monitor the progress of their domain towards achieving better DevSecOps maturity. There are several advantages of this hub and spoke model. One of the advantages, it provides empowerment to spoke to chart their course towards DevSecOps adoption and removes the dependency of the lean hub. It also promotes bidirectional sharing of responsibilities and the ability for the spokes to innovate and share their assets to the hub and the rest of the organization. We touched upon it earlier. Most importantly, the lean hub helps create a distributed financial model. What we've seen organizations do is ask for a large chunk of money because they have a hub that's responsible for driving DevOps transformation across all the organizations. So if we have to federate that and enable the domains to secure their funding for their DevOps resources, then it becomes much easier to go back and justify uh, for the expense for the transformation and create a distributed financial model. Next slide. Vijay, why don't you touch base on how we've done the crawl, walk, run model and what are the different aspects of it when it comes to DevSecOps transformation?
Certainly, Shri. So the overall list of activities we do in DevSecOps transformation is divided into three phases: pilot, expand, and scale. As part of the pilot, we do an assessment and discovery of the applications, identify some of the champion projects which can prove value out of, DevSecOps transformation. We also uh, identify certain platforms or technologies which are common across the organization and create pipeline templates for those technology stacks, right? Onboard a couple of teams to start the process itself, transformation itself, and onboard them to DevOps pipelines, conduct workshops as necessary to make sure that we coach them on the transformation aspects and make them ready for adopting to these transformation or pipelines, right? The next one is the identifying the metrics and KPIs, which could prove as an outcome or measure to measure the, success of the adoption of these DevSecOps pipelines, right? So identify, as Shri mentioned earlier, identify change agents who can actually conduct webinars or meetups, to within the organization itself to promote the DevSecOps transformation. Um, Last but not the least, you create a app selection criteria and value stream maps so that you can deliver your DevSecOps transformation for those pilot projects and prove the value out of that. Once you prove that value, you are to expand across the organization. So this is where you identify additional technology stacks where you can roll out, um, the pipelines, new pipelines for, right? Also identify where the gaps are and create more capabilities within the pipelines to ensure that the pipelines take them all the way to production without having them to stop for any of the manual activities, right? Um, as part of the expand, you'll also work with, business units for onboarding more and more teams and start adopting or helping them adopt, some of the DevSecOps transformation.
Yeah, very robust DevSecOps maturity model is a must for driving the transformation. Qualitas maturity model has 5 stages, starting from aspirational and goes up to next gen. The stages start with organization doing everything manual or having ad hoc transformation. So they're very aspirational. They want to get better. But it is slowly, the maturity of the organization can be improved by capabilities that are introduced for automation, process optimization, cultural change, and the enablement that we talked about in the previous slides. It is also essential to baseline the maturity before the start of the transformation. And it's got to be done at the different levels. It's got to be done at the organization level, at business unit or domain level, and at the team levels. Qualitas has a web-based tool. It's called QTAP, or Qualitas Transformation Assessment Portal, that can help with organizations to baseline the maturity and also track the maturity at the different levels that we talked about. There is a self-assessment module within QTAP. It enables the application teams to assess their own maturity on a continual basis and create quarterly targets to improve the maturity of DevSecOps adoption.
Sure, Sri. So some of the KPIs we have uh, been monitoring it for the organizations where we have done DevSecOps transformation are um, DORA, which stands for DevSecOps Research and Assessment Metrics, right? Which are key metrics used for measuring the success of the DevSecOps. One of the metrics is release frequency. It's a frequency with which organizations successfully deploy to production. The second is a lead time to change, right? The time it takes for committing a change into the source code and getting that into production, right? The third one is change failure rate. So the percentage of changes or deployments to the production which result into the failure. The last one is mean time to recovery. So the average time it takes for recovering a failure in the production. Right? All of these metrics are key metrics which helps teams to measure their success of the DevSecOps adoption. Right? Along with this, so along with DORA, we have also incorporated some of the quality insight metrics, which will help the teams to measure the um, improvements in their testing. Uh, some of them are BDD adoption rate or behavioral driven development adoption rate. So, how many requirements in a sprint are being written in the BDD format? Unit test code adherence. Um, it, how much of your applications are adopting to unit testing standards, and are they practicing test driven development or not? In sprint automation coverage, how much of your testing within the sprint is happening through the automation so that your pipelines can execute those test cases automatically, right? So it shows the success of the integration with the pipelines. Test pyramid adherence from the quality perspective. It's important that you teams adhere to creating or shifting left testing more towards unit testing rather than doing a lot of end-to-end system testing. So we measure that as well. From build and deploy perspective, we cover build success rate. We not only measure the success of the builds, but also uh, show the users how many builds have failed because of the compilation and how many builds have failed because of the quality gates, right? The same applies to deployment as well. So we measure the success of the deployment success rate and the quality gates enforced for the applications, where teams not only using the quality gates to run as part of the CI/CD pipelines, but also making sure that no code goes into production or any environment if the quality gate fails, right? So these metrics show adherence to some of the practices DevSecOps brings in.
Thank you, Vijay. Appreciate it. Metrics are very essential and are key for driving DevSecOps transformation. But one of the things that we want to make sure that the organization understand is not to have metrics overload. A lot of metrics can dilute the attention that's needed on key levers in moving the transformation in the right direction. Okay. Thanks, everyone. And we'll now move on to any questions that are there that we want to talk about, Ritika.
Thank you, Srinivas. I think the session was really insightful, and why I'm saying it's because I'm seeing a lot of questions popping in on the chat window for me. Let me just read out some for you, and in the interest of time, we can also, respond back to people with their answers in case if we are falling short of time. So the first question that I have been asked is, what challenges can we expect during the transformation?
Sure, Ritika. I think what we have seen, a common challenge is, the organizations start very ambitiously and they start to, um, roll out the transformation. But then the biggest challenge becomes being able to scale, right? To scale the transformation across all parts of organization. A lot of times it's because of they have one central um, team or a hub that drives everything. Uh, it's we have provided you everyone some tips around this on how to address this with the hub and spoke model. Okay. And the other aspect is the resistance to change. There are always um, folks in the organizations that they think that whatever that's being done now is good and it's sufficient. There's no need to change. That's when all these change management methodologies that we talked about, the ADKAR for ProSci or anything else that you pick up, they will help in actually increasing the awareness and improving the desire to change. We talked about change agents being able to do that, and also providing all the skills and the tools necessary for the organization to embrace the change. Vijay, do you want to cover any other challenges from your side?
Absolutely, Shri. So you earlier talked about DevSecOps being continuous improvement and bringing new tools into the mix as well, right? The complexity of these tool integrations becomes one of the challenge as well. So you will be at a point where you have to evaluate multiple tools, make sure that it matches the technology stacks what are currently in place, and the integration is verified before it is rolled out to the applications teams. So that's one challenge we have seen and how we addressed it. Second, QA being siloed. The organizations we have seen, the quality engineering is siloed, and it is not part of the DevSecOps initiatives. So that's where, I mean, QA still a lot of processes becomes manual, right? So when it integrated, QA has to be embedded part of the DevSecOps adoption, and they have to be coached on the DevSecOps initiatives as well to bring them up to speed.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shri.
Good.
Thank you. Second question, I think it is an intriguing question. So, in our organization, we have a mix of legacy and modern applications. So, how do you drive DevSecOps for legacy systems?
I would say it's not much different. So when you take legacy systems, there is a part where, there's developer activity which leads to compilation of artifacts. So there's continuous integration that can be techniques that can be applied there. And the artifacts that are being compiled are going to be moved across environments. So with deployment automation, some of the CD principles can be applied there. And also, when it comes to testing, we know there are tools that are available to test the legacy applications, whether it's unit, whether it's smoke, regression, etc. All of those can be applied for legacy as well. But one of the challenges that the legacy applications are going to have is, they probably are not going to be very modular. Their components are probably not going to be very loosely coupled, right? So in those cases, what we've done is we have created what we call manifest-based deployment processes. So you create a manifest of all the different components that are dependent on each other and need to go together, and you drive automation deployments based on this manifest across environments and take it all the way to production. But this would require some coordination aspects to bring all the teams together. But this is some another way of kind of doing the coordination, but also leveraging the automation to deploy something to production and release faster.
Quite helpful. Thank you so much, Sri. Again, in the interest of time, we'll take one more question. I think this tops the chart. Is there any role for management and leadership to play in DevSecOps transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. There's a big role for management and leadership to play because, we talked about this being a journey, right? This is a multi-year transformation effort. Now, this requires, the leaders to go provide their opinion and push it top down to say, hey, this is must, we got to change in order to be successful and sustain ourselves, our business in the marketplace, right? We need to be able to release faster, improve quality, all of those aspects. They need to be providing those sound bites across the organization. And most importantly, where we need the support is, you know, in terms of funding these efforts. We just touched upon some of the aspects of the, um, crawl, walk, run, right? So it is essential that, you know, leaders help us pick up some technology stacks where we can demonstrate some quick wins, right, in the pilot phases so that we can impress the business leaders in the organization or the participants in this transformation on with the quick wins and also provide continuous support in being able to fund this initiative and make sure that they spread the good news or the good outcomes from these across the organization at their levels and their levels above to continue the journey.
Thank you so much, Sri. With that, we have reached towards the end of the webinar. However, if anyone is in the middle of entering their questions, we'll pick your questions and we'll reply to you after the webinar. It leaves me to say thank you, Shri and Vijit, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, and an extended thanks to our audience for joining us today. Until next time, when you join us for another insightful webinar, all the best and goodbye.
You're welcome, Ritika. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Vijay, as well.
Thank you, everyone.